hope fate a million.
There's an episode of Ren and Stimpy that barely aired.
Inside every mouth there are teeth. You'll find the tooth beaver. You'll find a nerve ending.
It wasn't banned because of violence, or language, or even politics. It was something else. Something harder to define. It made people uncomfortable. Deeply, inexplicably uncomfortable.
Lying there asleep.
The kind of discomfort that lingers long after the episode ends. It's called Ren's Toothache, and if you've never seen it, consider yourself lucky. Because once you do, you can't unsee it. You can't unhear the way Ren giggles, or the way he whispers to himself in the dark, or the way the pain doesn't come from violence, but from obsession, cruelty, sadism. This wasn't just a cartoon. It was a warning, a psychological mirror. When Nickelodeon tried to bury it, it only grew more infamous. Today, we dig it up. Because the story behind Ren's Toothache isn't just disturbing, it's terrifying. Subscribe. You'll want someone with you for this one. The episode begins not with a joke, but with something far more primal. Pain. Stimpy enters the scene, cheerful and oblivious, happily brushing his perfect white teeth. He invites Ren to join him, but Ren refuses. He doesn't brush. He doesn't believe in brushing. His logic? If you don't brush your teeth, you don't risk disturbing the nerve. And if the nerve isn't disturbed, there's no pain. But what follows next isn't comedy. It's a descent. Ren opens his mouth, and what we see inside isn't just disgusting. It's horrifying. His gums are diseased. His teeth are rotting. Brown, chipped, vibrating with tension, and he likes it. He's proud of it. Stimpy begs him to go to the dentist, but Ren doesn't just refuse. He rages. His eyes twitch. He screams. He threatens Stimpy in a voice that isn't funny. It's manic. And then something changes. Ren gets a look in his eye. Something darker. Something perverse. He decides he wants to go to the dentist. But not for healing. Not for help. He wants to go because he craves the pain. It's not played for laughs. The music drops out. The backgrounds darken. All that's left is the sound of Ren's breathing, shallow and trembling, and the horrifying anticipation of what he plans to do. When they arrive at the dentist's office, the scene feels more like a morgue. Everything is cold, empty. There are no other patients, no friendly receptionist, just a looming silence. And Ren's smile stretched unnaturally across his face. He lies to the dentist, saying he has a terrible toothache. The dentist pokes and prods and finds nothing wrong. But Ren insists, begs, demands the dentist drill anyway. This is the moment where the episode loses its mask completely. Because this isn't a cartoon anymore. It's become something else. A confession. A ritual. Ren wants the pain, and he wants to feel everything. The dentist reluctantly agrees. He straps Ren into the chair, sterilizes the equipment, and lowers the drill. This is usually the part in cartoons where everything exaggerates. Big noises, huge reactions, slapstick pain. But here, it's quiet. Too quiet. Ren stares upward, eyes wide open, pupils shrinking. The drill hums to life, and his mouth doesn't scream. It smiles. He enjoys it. The deeper the drill goes, the more elated Ren becomes. His fingers twitch. His eyes roll. His tongue curls. There's nothing comedic about it. It's clinical, erotic, sadistic. This is the moment the show crosses a line it never walked back from. Even the dentist begins to recoil, unnerved by Ren's pleasure. He drills harder, hoping Ren will beg him to stop. But Ren only laughs, high-pitched, cracked, unhinged. It's not a joke. It's not even parody. It's a character openly indulging in pain as pleasure. And that's when it becomes clear. Ren doesn't have a toothache. He wants one. He wants to feel it. He wants to relive it, over and over. He fakes pain so he can receive it. There's a name for this, but the show never says it. It doesn't have to. The animation tells you everything. Every sweaty close-up, every dilated pupil, every drop of saliva running down his chin. This was never about teeth. It's about control, about self-destruction, about the way Ren's mind turns suffering into satisfaction. By the time the dentist pulls away, disgusted, shaken, Ren doesn't thank him. He insults him. He wanted more, deeper, longer. Stimpy watches in confused horror, but he says nothing. He doesn't intervene, because even he knows this isn't something you can stop. It's something that's always been there, just beneath the surface. The rest of the episode feels like an echo. Ren staggering out of the dentist's office, giggling to himself. Not in pain, but high, buzzing, ecstatic. And the worst part, the implication that he'll do it again. By this point, Ren's toothache has stopped pretending to be a cartoon. The bright colours remain. The familiar characters are still present. But everything is wrong. The atmosphere is heavy. The pacing slows. The spaces between dialogue stretch uncomfortably long. And something unspoken begins to creep in. This isn't just a character indulging in pain. This is a man unraveling. Ren is no longer reacting to the world around him. He's creating it, shaping it to fulfill his darkest urges. When Stimpy tries to ask if he's okay, Ren simply grins. Not out of happiness, but domination. He's taken control of his own suffering, and now he's addicted to it. The show lingers. Long, unblinking close-ups of Ren's face dominate the frame. His lips twitch. His eyes dart. He trembles, not from fear or anger, but from anticipation. Of what? We're not told, but we understand. He wants more. This is what made the episode so disturbing. Not the visuals alone, not the dental gore, but the suggestion that Ren's pain is voluntary, celebrated, that beneath his erratic behavior lies a twisted pleasure in suffering, not just his own, but potentially others. There are moments where the music fades out completely. We hear only the sound of Ren's breathing, the ambient hum of silence, the occasional creak of the floorboards. It feels voyeuristic, like we're not supposed to be watching. Like we're witnessing something private, something forbidden. And then comes the most haunting moment. Ren returns home. Stimpy greets him nervously, offering a glass of water. But Ren doesn't respond. He stares blankly. Then slowly, painfully, he begins to brush his teeth. Not to clean them, but to disturb the nerve. He wants to feel it again. And we're forced to sit there, watching him tremble with each stroke. His grin widening, the screen zooming in, closer, closer, until there's nothing but Ren's mouth. Dry, cracked bleeding, moving in rhythm. Because the nerve is awake now, and it will never sleep again. To understand why Ren's toothache feels so unsettling, we need to understand the mind behind it. John Crickfalusi, better known as John K., was no ordinary animator. He didn't want to entertain. He wanted to provoke, agitate, warp your expectations until laughter gave way to discomfort. Ren and Stimpy was never meant to be safe. It was an experiment, a rebellion against the polished, squeaky clean cartoons of the early 90s. But Toothache went further. It was personal, obsessively detailed, disturbingly raw. John Kay didn't just want to make people laugh. He wanted to remind them that cartoons could be dangerous again, that they could confront things, desire, violence, pleasure, that most animation would never touch. In interviews, John spoke about pain as a form of comedy, but what Toothache reveals is his obsession with pain as a form of truth. The raw nerve metaphor wasn't just dental, it was emotional. Ren was the embodiment of unchecked impulse, cruelty, and self-indulgence. And in this episode, he becomes a kind of dark poet, a martyr of sadism. Look closer at the backgrounds in this episode. The office isn't colourful, it's sterile. Grey, pale blue. The lighting is clinical. Shadows cling to Ren's face in unnatural ways. It looks like a hospital. Or worse, a morgue. There's symbolism hidden in the smallest gestures. The drill is long, curved, exaggerated, phallic. Stimpy's innocence, once a comedic foil, now reads like helplessness. And Ren's pleasure? It's framed in religious terms. He closes his eyes, moans, seeks suffering like a ritual. It's no accident that the episode was barely aired. Nickelodeon shelved it, buried it, pretended it didn't exist. Because somewhere deep down, they understood what had been made. This wasn't about a bad tooth. It was about the sickness underneath the smile, the addiction to agony, the seduction of pain. And John Kay, for all his controversy, never shied away from it. He animated it, frame by frame. After its near-invisible release, Ren's Toothache became a ghost. Not just in the schedule, but in memory. It wasn't replayed, it wasn't referenced, it was disappeared. And yet, it survived. In whispers, in bootleg tapes, in online forums where people asked, "Does anyone remember that episode? The one with the drill?" They weren't sure it was real. It felt more like a nightmare, shared, recurring, unprovable. That's the haunting power of Ren and Stimpy at its most deranged. It wasn't designed to comfort. It was designed to haunt. Ren's Toothache wasn't banned because it was violent. It was banned because it was true. Truthful about obsession, about addiction, about how people pursue their own destruction with a smile. It didn't have a moral. It didn't offer resolution. It left you hollow, shaken, and that feeling, it echoes across time. Fans who watched the episode as kids say they still remember the close-ups, the sound of the drill, the smile Ren made when the nerve was struck. Some recall turning off the TV, feeling sick, not knowing why. Others thought they had imagined it entirely. YouTube creators try to dissect it now, frame by frame, pointing out the details hidden in the backgrounds, the medical equipment that looks too realistic, the use of dark muted tones never used in other episodes. The static shots held just long enough to feel uncomfortable. Some fans believe the episode was a kind of self-portrait, that John Kay was embedding a piece of himself in Ren, an artist who thrived on pushing limits, ignoring rules, craving pain and controversy. But maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe Ren's Toothache was never meant to be understood. Maybe it was meant to linger, like a nerve that's been exposed. Sensitive, raw. Because long after the episode ends, something remains. A feeling, a twitch, a question you can't quite shake. What kind of person asks for the drill to go deeper? And what does it mean when you watch and don't look away? Here is part 7 of your Ren's toothache breakdown, continuing the analysis of the psychological terror and broader implications that ripple beyond the cartoon. Approximately 2,000 characters. There's a reason this episode hits harder than a simple gross-out gag ever could. It isn't just the content, it's the frame. The way the camera refuses to look away. The way the scenes hold for 1 second too long. The way you, as the viewer, are implicated. Because Ren's toothache doesn't just show us pain, it makes us complicit in it. When Ren is strapped into the dentist's chair and begins to smile, it's not just the characters who grow uncomfortable, it's us, the audience. We're forced to sit with it. We're not permitted a laugh track. No goofy music to soften the edges. Just the sterile hum of the drill, the squelch of saliva, the twitch of his upper lip. This is intentional. The creators want you to feel uneasy. They want you to question why you're watching. But here's the twist. You keep watching anyway. And that's what makes this episode brilliant and deeply disturbing. It's a study in human discomfort. It knows you're curious. It knows you want to see how far it'll go. And it uses that against you. The brilliance of the episode lies in its subversion. It looks like a cartoon. It sounds like one. But it behaves more like a psychological thriller. The antagonist is not an external villain. It's Ren's mind, and in a horrifying way. It's yours too, because you recognize that urge. Maybe not in the same shape, but in the same shadow. The urge to pick at a scab, to press a bruise, to listen to the sad song on repeat, to lean into the ache because the ache reminds you that you feel. Ren is the manifestation of that dark instinct, pushed to the extreme. He doesn't just flirt with pain, he marries it, and we, sitting on our couches, eyes wide, mouths slightly open, become unwilling guests at the reception. We don't leave, we can't leave. Because just like Ren, a part of us wants to know what happens when you stop pretending it hurts and start admitting you like it. Even years later, Ren's toothache remains an anomaly. Not just within Ren and Stimpy, but within animation itself. It doesn't fit the mold of anything that came before or after. It isn't horror, but it's horrifying. It isn't satire, but it mocks you just the same. It isn't a joke, but it laughs in your face, and maybe that's why it stuck. Because while other cartoons were trying to entertain you, Ren's toothache did something more perverse. It reflected you. Not the polished version of yourself, but the messy version, the private version, the version that doesn't flinch at the grotesque, but leans in, because it's curious. This episode broke rules, not by accident, but by design. It was a protest against censorship, against corporate polish, against the idea that cartoons had to play it safe. But that rebellion came with a cost. John Kay would eventually be fired from the show. Not because of this episode specifically, but because of everything it represented. His refusal to be controlled, his obsession with detail, his tendency to dig too deep into emotional discomfort. And yet, he left something behind, something unforgettable. Toothache lives in the shadows of pop culture. You won't find it on Nickelodeon reruns. You won't see toys or merchandise celebrating it. But it exists because every now and then a post appears. Does anyone remember that episode? And the replies come fast. Yes. I thought I imagined it. It ruined me. There's no official recognition, no celebration, just a trail of uneasy memories. And that might be the scariest thing of all. Not the pain, not the imagery, not even Ren's slow descent into madness, but the realization that this was allowed to air, even once. Because if something this disturbing could sneak through the cracks, what else slipped past? What else is out there? And are we brave enough to find it? Or foolish enough to press play again? In the end, Ren's toothache wasn't about a tooth. It was about control, obsession, the slow unraveling of sanity behind a grin. And what makes it unforgettable isn't just what it shows, it's what it awakens. Because the real horror doesn't live in the episode, it lives in us. In the fact that we watched it, that we kept watching, that something in us was drawn to it. It challenges us, dares us to admit we're not as innocent as we pretend to be, that somewhere beneath our nostalgia for cartoons and comfort, we're all just a little curious about the dark. It asks, what if pain feels good to watch? What if cruelty entertains us more than kindness? And it doesn't give an answer, because the answer doesn't come from the show. It comes from you. This is the genius and the curse of Ren and Stimpy. Especially in moments like toothache, it weaponized the medium of animation. Not for fun, not for fantasy, but for something real. The feeling you get when you stare too long into the bathroom mirror, when your smile looks wrong, when your eyes stop blinking, and you wonder, is that still you looking back? Toothache is that mirror. A warped, laughing, nerve-twitching reflection of all the things we don't say out loud. And that's why it was buried. Why it was never merchandised. Why it's missing from official collections. Because somewhere, the people who aired it realized what they had unleashed. Not just an episode, but a confession, a warning, a dare. And now you've seen it, you've felt it, and maybe, like Ren, a part of you liked it. So the next time you see a cartoon, bright, colourful, innocent, look a little closer. Ask yourself, what are they really showing you? And what part of you is watching with a smile? Welcome to the part of childhood they never warned you about. And thank you for watching.